Welcome to this special edition of Moments Nigeria. Today we're talking to one of Africa's biggest influencers in the news and journalism space. She's been asking the tough questions for almost 4 decades without fear. She is Zeinab Badawi. She's an African journalist with the BBC World News.
Bola and Tallulah, I'm delighted to be with you.
You studied PPE, philosophy, politics and economics at St Hilda's College in Oxford. So how did you kind of make that transition into the media? Because I know your father worked for the BBC Arabic network. Yes. So was that kind of one of the influences on your media career?
When I left Oxford, I did another year's study. And then I thought, well, I love politics, I love current affairs. In another life, I might have gone into politics as a politician, I think. But I thought the next best thing would be to be an observer of what goes on in the world. And I'd always engaged with international affairs because my parents obviously were always interested in not only what was going on in the UK, but internationally. So I think I just it was a marriage between my interests and my profession.
I find it very fascinating. I think whenever I've thought of Africa, I've never had the opportunity to study the history. Now, what even inspires you to say, you know what, I want to take this journey going around so many different countries and telling it from a perspective of someone of African descent?
I mean, the series is based on a unique project which was started in the 1960s when the newly independent African presidents said, we've decolonized our countries, we want to decolonize our history.
Victoria Falls, Zimbabwe. People have been living here in Africa longer than anywhere else in the world. Yet so often their history has been completely overlooked or written by outsiders. Join me for a groundbreaking TV series, The History of Africa, told by Africans themselves.
So UNESCO got a load of African scholars. They scoured the continent for the best historians, anthropologists, archaeologists, you named it. And they compiled volume after volume after volume of Africa's history, told by African scholars from an African perspective, but proper works of, proper scholarship. So I asked UNESCO if I could use these volumes as a basis for a TV series. And that's really what makes this series, I think, unique. It's because if I go to Ethiopia, I'll interview an Ethiopian. Eritrea, I'll interview Eritreans. And I think there's something very powerful about Africans seizing control of their own history. It's also a very linear narrative of Africa's history, chronological, which hasn't really been tackled on television in this way. My objectives are threefold. If you watch this series, you will know more about Africa's history than you did. You will be excited to learn more. And thirdly, you'll be a bit entertained.
What are some fascinating discoveries? Like, what's one discovery that really stuck with you that, made you feel like this all makes sense? The reason why I did this makes sense.
Yes. I mean, at the risk of being biased at the country of my birth, I would say that I suppose when I went to northern Sudan to look at the connections between the customs of the people there, it completely resonated with me that things I'd seen in my grandmother's house and things that she did, it suddenly struck me that my grandmother, who was born at the beginning of the 20th century, was obviously using things and doing things which went back thousands of years, perhaps hundreds of years BC. So I think that's what I found the most interesting, is actually, it seems like a really long time ago, 2,000–3,000 years BC, but actually, there are a lot of traditions. The heritage is strong.
Yeah.
Thank you for sitting with us. That's all we have for you for this special edition of Moments Nigeria. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.